Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Inside Unreal, a weekly show where we learn, explore, and celebrate everything Unreal. I am your host, Tina, and today with me I have some of the incredible team from Simteract. We're going to be going over a really exciting project of theirs. But first and foremost, Happy New Year, everyone. Very excited to be back in 2023. And we've got so many really cool shows lined up so far for the beginning of this year. Very excited to dive into those. But let's get into what we all came for today, which is the incredible Taxi Life project that you all have brought. So I'm going to go ahead. We'll go around. We can introduce ourselves. Adam, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hello. My name is Adam, and I'm head of programmers at Simteract. Well, I like programming, especially low-level stuff and content generation and Rust programming language. And after work, I love playing guitar, singing, or going to mountains to do some all this mountain stuff. That's from me.
Awesome. Fantastic. Happy to have you here. And then next up, we have Artur. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh, wait, I think he's frozen.
Oh no.
Man.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh no.
Oh, Artur, come back to us.
Oh no. We'll get him back in here in a moment. But in the
Sure.
meantime, Mike, I'll hand it over to you. Do you want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, my name is Mike. I am the Simteract community manager. I've been a gamer for the better part of about 20 years, and outside of me killing dragons with my guild, I like to spend time with my family and go on long walks with the forest with my 3-year-old Welsh Terrier, which you can see doing his debut, I think, right over here. He's just chilling right there. So happy to be here, and yeah, super excited to show you guys what we're working on here. I sort of wanted to take this time as well to sort of talk about who we are as a company, as a studio, and what we're doing. So we're actually a Polish game development studio with 60 people strong. We're focusing on premium vehicle simulation games for PC and consoles. We're the company behind the Train Life, a railway simulator, which is out now on Steam. And currently, we are working on Taxi Life with our publisher, Nacon. So, anyone from Nacon watching, big shout outs to you guys. We also have a vast professional simulation background that we use to deliver the best vehicle simulation games for the global audience on multiple platforms. And I actually got a message from Artur. He says that there's something happening. There's some technical issues, so I'm not sure how we can fix that problem. I'll tell him to actually maybe F5 it, maybe refresh it.
Yeah. We'll get him back in here.
I think we can just move forward, and he will have a time to join.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, while we're figuring that out, you brought a trailer for us to watch, right?
Yep.
Oh,
I think Arthur's back.
Oh, Arthur is back.
Is he back?
Yeah.
All right.
There
So,
he is.
Arthur, introduce yourself, and then we'll show you guys the trailer for our up and coming game.
Hello, it's great to be here. My name is Artur Szymański. I started as a mathematician, later spent a couple of years being a 3D generalist, and currently I'm head of art department at Simteract. I'm supervising a great art team and spending a lot of my time in Houdini making procedural generators.
Awesome. We really
nice.
enjoy Houdini around here, so you're going to see a couple other fans, I'm sure, in chat as well. All right. I'm so glad we got you back. I was worried. I was like, no, we can't not have Artur.
I was like, please come back. But you know what they say, like when something isn't supposed to go wrong, it happens at the worst amount like possible time. So
Always. Of course.
you know,
The nature of
we
being
got
live.
that out of the way. We got that out of the way, and everything is going to be absolutely pristine from now on.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Cool.
Awesome. Well, let's kick up that trailer that you brought.
Awesome. Let's do it. Sunny Barcelona. Isn't this city beautiful? Today is my first day at work. Being a taxi driver is a bit stressful. I know it won't be easy, but I'm pretty sure I can manage. The city is absolutely stunning. It's huge and full of life. I really like to show people around the city just how I saw it for the first time. Everything from popular locations like Ciutadella Park to streets like the Carrer de la Marina. Whoops, that happens. But I guess that's what mechanics are for. I sometimes get to meet some really interesting individuals.
You won't believe me, but I won the lottery. We're talking more than €1 million.
Whoa, hold up. We gotta get some gas. You know, that was a pretty great day, wasn't it? And that's only the beginning.
Awesome. I think my favorite part of the whole thing is when you're whispering about winning the lottery.
Yeah, so like some fun facts about that trailer. That's actually me. I don't know if you could tell. But it's actually me doing the voiceover, and I actually use like a voice modulator to sort of change my voice so I could pretend to be like the passenger that we're gonna have in the game. It was sort of last minute done. We had to do it quickly, so it was the best option we had right now. So yeah.
I love it. I think you should never change it because at this point it's
Oh, we
iconic.
won't. It's
Good.
already it's a done deal, so it's not going to change anytime soon.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much for showing us that. So we got the little sneak peek, little teaser trailer there. And I think at least I know for myself, if I'm being entirely selfish, I'm ready to see the insides here of this that you brought.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to mention one thing. People in chat are saying that our website went down, and I don't think we were ready for this amount of traffic, pun intended,
Yeah.
on the website.
Wow.
So for all you guys trying to go to our website right now, sorry, I don't think we were prepared. So I've actually forwarded to our CEO, seeing if we can fix it ASAP. So sorry about that, guys. But you could find out more about the game on Steam, and I'll post a link in chat in a second.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is what you get. You come on the show and we break your things.
Do you remember that thing that I said about like the stream being pristine? Yeah, it's just one thing after another.
Well, that's all right. So, Adam, you were gonna kick us off with what you brought today, right?
Yeah. Let's move on. Yeah, so I will start by getting back in time a few years when Simteract was more focused on, let's call it, serious simulators, not games. And at that time, we created a traffic AI library. It's a traffic simulation library that can be integrated into any simulation software or game engine like Unreal Engine, of course. And it has AI model made with custom utility AI framework. It's able to handle many road situations like traversing through intersections with or without traffic signals, signs. It can, of course, change lanes, overtake, and so on. It can the traffic AI can import a road network from OpenStreetMap or OpenDrive files, and OpenDrive is kind of industry standard For example, in automotive industry, it can handle very detailed road networks. The traffic can also enhance a simple road networks with details. The simple road network, like from OpenStreetMap, for example, we can automatically add some lane markings, traffic signs, and so on by using some heuristics. It can handle very complex intersections. It can also generate road meshes that can be then used in any graphical software. Interesting fact is that it's written in a Rust programming language. And a funny fact is that at Simteract we were one of early adopters of this language, which is getting more and more popular right now. And I definitely recommend it. It can be used from other languages like Python, C++, or .NET. It's fast, mainly due to the fact it's written in Rust. Very portable. It also includes the standalone application viewer that can be used to run the simulation, quickly visualize results. And another interesting fact, it actually has been used in autonomous driving research. The company called Aptiv, it's an automotive company, used it to help with the development of their autonomous driving software for real cars. So let's move to the demonstration of the software for now outside the Unreal Engine. And a little warning, it's the tool made by programmers for programmers, so it will be a little low level. Let's start with our standard testing environment. It's part of Krakow, near our headquarters. We use it to test all stuff in traffic. And in a minute, I will show you how we import that. By the way, the application here, this is not our application. This is JOSM. It's open source editor for OpenStreetMap. And we use it to view the maps, download them, edit if we need, and so on. And in a minute, I will show you how we convert OpenStreetMap into our internal format. In the process, we are applying those heuristics to guess all the details of roads. For example, how the lanes are connected on this intersection, what traffic signs should be placed here and there. And for example, we smooth those roads so they have nice curvature. And let's go to the traffic software. As you can see, this is this Rust code, and we are importing it and running in this built-in viewer. I'll show you it in a second. Yeah, it doesn't look precisely like AAA game, but it does the job. We can quickly view how the road network is looking. We can debug if the connections on the junctions are right, how AI is behaving, if the traffic signs are okay, and so on. All this stuff is generated from the map you've seen a minute before. And let me show you this from the perspective. It's a significant part of the city with 500 agents that are traversing it. Of course, there are some config files that controls the process of importing and the simulation itself. Okay, then fast forward a couple of years, and we are starting to work on taxi life. So let's go to Barcelona. It's definitely warmer there than in Poland. When we started to work on life, our main goal was to one of the main goals of this project is to recreate the real city, Barcelona, as close to the real life as possible. So we need a tool that firstly can import the real world maps. I think this is obvious here. Secondly, is nicely integrated with Unreal Engine and can handle all those little details. Let me show you what I'm talking about. For example, yeah, all these details needs to be. We want them to be present in the game, and so it's not possible to automatically generate them, but we needed tools for LD to tweak them manually. And by the way, we hate roundabouts, especially those with 3 lanes and traffic lights in the middle. I will repeat it probably a few times during this presentation. So taking into account all those requirements, it seems like the best way to tackle the problem is to take the traffic library, integrate it into Unreal Engine, and add some editing features to it to make this active. So now I will show you how the importing process looks like, how to get these roads in Unreal. In a game, we are using a much bigger area than this, but to make it faster, I will only use this smaller part of city. Okay, so the first step is to convert OpenStreetMap data into our internal JSON format that can handle the many more details of the roads. It's quite fast for such small area. We can quickly see if it looks okay in the same nice, beautiful viewer. One moment.
This is always the
Yes.
best part, right? Just getting your screen filled
Yeah,
with
sure,
warnings.
sure. Yeah, sure. I don't see them anymore, to be honest. And we can see that most of intersections look kind of okay, and there are some that looks very, very bad, but we'll get to it later. It's okay for the start. So let's go to the Unreal and import the stuff. I have prepared the empty scene that have some basic setup already done, so to make this to not make this presentation too boring. And we have this generated JSON with road network already here. In this actor, I can set some basic blueprints that should be used to spawn signals, signs, and so on. And now let's generate road meshes. In the process, Traffic AI generates very basic meshes of roads and intersections, and then we are converting them into Unreal static meshes. So again, the basic roads, basic intersection looks okay, but of course there are some that will require tweaks, and we'll get to it later. We can also generate some signals here or signs. It will take a moment, and they are here. Yeah, and now I can show some how the edit workflow looks like. Yeah, let's. So firstly, I need to generate some curves that can be used to edit this. We have it there. And for example, let's add some spline. Let's add some turn. It needs to be rebuilt. Now let's add some curvature because it looks ugly right now. for example, like 50 meters should be okay, and generate it. It's definitely not instant, and it takes even more time for bigger maps. And you can see that the road doesn't exactly follow the Unreal spline curvature. That's because we have internally another implementation of curves, so-called arc curves, that are used in real life for road building. What else we can, for example, I want this road not to be connected into this intersection, so let's move it here. Again, one moment. So the intersection has been rebuilt. Let's connect it somewhere here. So the new intersection should be created. Yeah, so that's the basic workflow. What else can we do here? We can add some debug curves so we can see how AI sees those roads. This is very important for debugging purposes. Again, for simple intersections, they look okay. And let's go now to the elephant in the room. I need to remove them for a moment. Yeah, so you probably remember those roundabouts that I show on the map. And in the editor, they look like this. Yeah, we hate roundabouts. So now it's a time for our brave level design team to fix this mess up. And to be honest, it's quite tedious work due to the complexity of this and due to the quite raw state of our tools. You may have noticed that they are quite not user friendly. But so kudos to our LD team. So now let's fast forward like many hours later when this is a cleaned app, and I will show you how it will look after this process in a moment.
I have a question for you, Adam.
Sure.
So, I work like we both work at the same company, and I am seriously impressed, right? Just like given the scope of like the game, and we're actually making this game at a 1-to-1 scale, right? So, everything that is in actual Barcelona, you would see in our game. Right. And I remember when we were in Gamescom, people were walking by and they were watching the trailer, and people that actually went to Barcelona, they like, saw the places that they actually went to in the game. And that was really amazing. So my question to you is like, what you're showing us now is sort of just like a small sample size, right? Of like, getting the roads straight.
It's much bigger in a game.
Yeah. And
definitely
like
cut this.
how like demanding and how difficult it is to like, because like you, for example, straightened one street out, right? So like going over like I think 7 kilometers squared of Barcelona, like going over every inch of that, making sure that it's like exactly how it is in real life. Like how tedious is that? Like how much work does it actually go into that kind of process?
It's a good question for our level design team. Maybe there is someone on the chat here, but yeah, I think this is quite tedious work.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it.
Yeah, definitely. Especially for monstrosities like this, like the roundabout with 3 lanes, with 8 roads, and I think this will be tram rails. Yeah, we hate roundabouts, but it's like you can see that it's cleaner. It's much cleaner now. This is not the same roundabout that I was showing you before, but it's quite similar. and the curves look okay for AI to traverse it. Let me remove this debug splines. It's still not perfect because you can see the dents on the mesh here and there, but it will be fixed later in the Arthur's part. So yeah, I think we are ready to actually spawn the traffic here. Yeah, again, it will take a few seconds or even more because a lot is happening in the background.
Can you maybe explain why we hate roundabouts so much? Like I mean, I hate
Again,
roundabouts in general.
yeah.
Like I generally hate roundabouts
No,
in general, in real life, right? So I wonder why we hate
so,
them so much in the game, like making them, right?
yeah, again, this is perfect question for LD team. I think the most most of their work is happening on something like that, on roundabouts like this. Traffic also has many problems to traverse through something like this. Yeah, so we can see that the AI is doing its AI stuff. As you can see, we are here. We are only simulating traffic near the player's car. The player's car is here. That's obviously for performance reasons. So the cars are traversing the junction. We have a lot of lanes. So the stuff is happening around here. And that will be pretty much it. One last thing I want to talk about. These roads are looking okay, but they are not looking like real roads in Barcelona. They are too clean, too artificial, repetitive. And that's the moment when Arthur and his toys come in. So I'm giving you a voice, Arthur.
Thank you. There's actually a lot of manual work of LD and level art team needed for this,
Of course.
but also some procedural generation. So I think we can switch to my screen. Okay, here we have the roads in the part of Barcelona that was featured in trailer that we had from Adam's team, and our job is to make them look pretty. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with those roads. They are nicely structured. There are missing triangles here and there, but those are things that can be easily fixed. There are missing details like proper material, like curbs, like pavement. But again, all of this with just a little bit more work on this tool can be added. And this is perfectly a good way to generate roads. In fact, most of generators that are currently used in games are using this approach of generating roads from the spline data. We're taking splines, information about the amount of lanes, and in the same way as here, we've got a generated road network. There are a lot of something. Okay, there are a lot of generators in Houdini and that working on this basis. And there are great tutorials that show that this can be integrated in Houdini engine to work directly from Unreal. And there are a lot of benefits of this approach. For example, those systems can be very fast. We can have real-time feedback of what we are actually doing. As Adam showed, we can move points, curves, and the mesh is rebuilding itself. But there are problems with this approach. For example, a lot of corner cases have to be addressed. If we create a system that making intersections when 3 or 4 roads meets, then it will break when 5 roads meet. So we have to take into consideration this case. And then the case with 6 or 7 roads, or with some complicated roundabouts. And currently, most of generators simply don't need to work on every possible case, because if city is completely procedurally generated, like a famous matrix Unreal 5 demo. Those tends to have more grid-like structure, a little bit simplified. So we won't encounter very unusual cases in road system. Some systems can create organic-looking cities, but simply if city is designed from scratch, designers will avoid cases when the system of road generation will break. We don't have this luxury because we are recreating existing city. And in this existing city, there is a lot of very complicated cases of road network, and creating this generator that will, from splines, generate cleanly every possible situation would be incredibly time consuming. Additionally, there's another problem with the shape. Here, this is completely nice looking intersection, but in fact, it should look like this. Those are those quite iconic diamond shape intersections of Barcelona, and there is many types of those. Again, adding this kind of shape to intersection could be implemented in a spline-based system, but it would need additional work, additional parameters. The system would be progressively more complicated to use for level design and level art. And it wouldn't be possible to create every possible variation of those, because every single shape here is slightly different. It's unique. And it's not even the case that we really want to replicate those shapes as precise as possible because we want this precision. We actually have to do this precisely. And because apart from roads, we're actually generating buildings from vector data. And if edge of a building won't follow edge of the street closely, it will be very noticeable by a player. So we had to find a way to create those shapes of roads, basically any elements of a road structure that appear as closely as possible. This could be done by creating some custom elements and adding to the road system. But in Barcelona, basically every intersection would be a custom mesh. And this is actually exactly what we did. All elements are custom meshes. And we had to find a way for level art and level design teams to create those as fast as possible and as easily as possible, because creating this by hand, modeling by hand, would be absolutely out of the question because of the sheer size of Barcelona. So we came up with the idea of adding simple objects, simple meshes to this base road that we're taking as base for our future generation. And we have different types of those objects. Those could be very simple, like boxes. And later we'll use those as elements that will add to our road structure. We could have more complicated objects if needed, and those will be used to add grass elements. And there is a couple of classes of such shapes, and those have to be placed carefully by level design and level art team. Level design is working on the shape of the roads and the playable area. Level art is focusing more on parts that will generate parks and grass areas. But all of those had to be put there based on the satellite views. And because of this simplified approach, this can be done rather quickly. However, this is still a huge amount of work. And after this work is done, all this data is exported into Houdini. and we're using Houdini to merge all this data. And I'm waiting for, yes, and we have the Houdini view. Here, just to show you the same thing, why we hate roundabouts. This is a very complicated roundabout, and fixing this, cleaning this data took a long time, and it was a very tedious process. It is greatly cleaned, and as I said, it could be used in game, if not for our need for exact replication of some elements. But there I've got a roundabout that was not cleaned yet. It will, yeah. And this one is far from perfect. So going from this to the proper shapes, it's a lot of work of a level design team. But where we are going from here?
That one actually looks really fun to drive around. I just wanted to mention that. Just like
oh yeah,
it is beautiful.
With some added verticality, it would be barrel fun. Here we've got all those road system imported. We've also are using terrain. That it's at the beginning of the entire process, we are creating terrain from satellite data, but later a level design team is working on this terrain and hand sculpting it to create all the details that will later be used for verticality of the roads. We've got the sparse version of this terrain, and for currently created level, we have to wait a bit. For level, we'll be currently generating the denser, more precise part. Yeah, this checkpoint was not saved, so it will take a minute. And generally, we are using three kinds of data. The terrain height map. You can see it's denser, where actually interesting things happens. We are using our road system, and we are importing those boxes, volumes, meshes that are set to create additional elements. And as you can see, there can be quite a lot of those. Here we have all elements that will add additional pavements. Then we've got elements that add asphalt. So you can see those diamond-shaped intersections. And all of this is coming here. And we have both row structure and those additional meshes merged together. And now we need to create one clean mesh from this. Procedurally, combining meshes traditionally use Boolean operators, but anyone who dabble in 3D art even a bit see a lot of red flags here, because this is probably the worst case scenario for Booleans. We've got a lot of long triangles, we've got a vastly different topology between objects, we've got many intersecting faces, so even though in Houdini Booleans are quite stable, among the most stable I ever saw in software, this is destined to fail. It will sooner or later break, and this classical merge would mean that the part of the city will be generated one day, and the next day someone will just add some small part or move some small element, and then the same part that was already working will crash completely. So we couldn't afford this, and we went with another approach, which is, I think, the most important part of the setup, to merge this and create from those different objects one proper road system mesh. And we've used voxelization for this. The title is spoiling it. I understand that it may not be immediately obvious for everyone what voxelization is. So if you know that, then next couple of minutes will be incredibly boring. But for sake of clarity, I prepared a small example to show what voxelization actually is, how that works. And I will show this on a very simple two-dimensional example. The principle is the same. We've got a grid, two-dimensional grid with, let's call those pixels. And we've got some shape that we would like to pixelate. Yes, I'm a little behind the string right now. Okay. And we're casting this shape onto the grid. If pixel is overlapped by the part of the shape, we can color it black. Otherwise, we're leaving white. And we can remove parts that are white, and we end up with pixel representation of our object. It's not perfect, a little bit coarse on the edges, but it approximates objects. And if we decrease the size of the pixel, we can actually have quite reasonable representation, and from some distance it becomes undistinguishable. Of course, this object that we're creating is very dense, and it's not exact replica of the object, but has two great benefits. It has a very clean topology. It always be just a cutout of the grid, and additionally, this procedure will never fail. It doesn't matter what kind of object we'll try to cast onto this grid. In the worst case scenario, some parts will be empty, won't show on this. But if some parts, but if other parts will properly register, they will always work. Our procedure will never fail, and exactly the same happens with voxels. Voxels, it's the same as those pixels, but three-dimensional. We've got three-dimensional lattice instead of grid, and three-dimensional objects can be voxelized. And after this process, we're getting a mesh that is very clean. There is watertight, and this is something that people who are working on 3D printing process know this process really well, because after voxelization, we're getting this kind of mesh. It's very dense, but it's watertight geometry with very predictable topology. Problem with voxelization is that because the voxels cannot be infinitely small, we are losing some sharp edges and sharp corners. But in our case, that works to our advantage because we actually prefer shapes of the roads to be like this and not be cut in sharp way as from those boxes that were created. Later, we can cut it, make it planar, and we've got really nice shape of the road. The same goes for pavements, much larger, because this is actually covering most of our landscape. And the next step is to cast this onto the terrain that I showed you earlier. The mesh does not look as nice, but actually is nicely optimized, and it's got exactly as much polygons that it needs to follow curvature of the terrain. Exactly. Same goes for our pavements. And what's happening here? Well, we are creating all those elements, all those meshes for one particular part of the city district that we've chosen. But for this to work properly, we're actually making voxelization of slightly larger area, and that later will be cut into the proper district size and shape. Additional benefit of this approach is that because this was created from cutting watertight object, we have very nice outline. Wait a bit for this. And this outline that we'll get in a moment allows us to create proper curves and additional details for our road system. Yeah. Stop this because I've got checkpoint ready. As you can see, those are the benefits of using voxelization that gives us this curvature on hard edges. And because this was created from this base mesh, it will follow the curvature and the shape of the roads exactly. Here we have parts that are still work in progress, but generally with similar matter is generating grass areas, park areas. And all of this leads us to final part of the setup when we cut all of this, generate all of those generated meshes to the exact shape of our district. And here we are using classic polygon booleans, but because this is very clean geometry cut by just extended polygons, this is the best case scenario, and boolean in this case will always work. And we end up with a mesh that covers basically entire district area. We've got roads, we've got our pavements, we've got decals. I will talk about this in a moment. And later we can export as FBXs all components of this, roads, colliders for the roads, curbs, pavements, decals, and import it directly into Unreal. Of course, during the regeneration, we are using this only to regenerate some small part or some particular asset if this needs to be regenerated, because the entire regeneration can be done automatically from out context. It's Houdini context used for generating rendering frames, videos, but can be used to generate our geometry. And because every district is connected to timeline, to a particular frame, we just basically rendering animation, and that gives us all our geometry. But this system, I'm the first one to admit, is not perfect. There are a couple of problems with it, and I will tell you how we combat those. The first problem is that because this is not created directly from splines, we're losing directionality. So proper texturing, it's challenging. And we actually decided on using word-aligned textures for the road systems, and to create parts that will have a directionality, we're creating decals. And there are custom placed decals that Level Art is placing to make roads texture look as good as possible. Another problem is lack of layered roads. From what you saw, and on one of the steps, the entire road system was cast onto terrain. So if we would have the two roads, one viaduct over some roads under it, that would be cast on a terrain, and actually we would have intersection when no intersection should be exist. So how we approach this problem? Well, we've got another group of objects that are placed by level design, and those objects helps us to identify parts of the map with those layering. Like in here, we have a tunnel that's going under the main roads, and there are a couple of, and here a viaduct, and those are simply removed from our generator. And with this, those objects removed, entire procedure goes as I showed you. But later, those parts will have to be are added in conventional way by level art and level design team using standard tools, standard modeling tools, and spline-based tools. This is it's not a very time-consuming process, but unfortunately, Barcelona doesn't offer a lot of places when this has to be done. This is something that we have to remember, that we lose layered structures with this process. And let me show you how that looks in Unreal as after export. Add foliage and buildings just to make sure it looks nice. And we have our road system with added foliage and all the beautiful elements that level art is working on adding, and our art team is preparing assets for. As you can see, we can have exact shapes we want and full control over how road will look. And because we were creating with the same procedure all those districts, and we're cutting those after a generation and were generated slightly bigger, they're actually completely seamless, and it's in game it's impossible to find where one area, one district ends and the next starts. And I think that's that concludes my part of this this presentation. This is how we go from OpenStreetView to roads in Barcelona.
That is truly incredible being able to see that process all the way from literally start to finish. I mean, you made it look really easy, but I know it's not. So, I think you might be
There
muted,
was a lot of
Mike.
fun working on this. Yes, Mike, you are.
I still can't hear you. Might need to refresh if it's the mic being particularly finicky. But yeah, it's
Can you guys hear me now?
there we
Yes.
go. Welcome
There
back.
we go. Hi. Hi, I'm Mike. I'm the community manager. No, I'm just kidding. I sort of wanted to capitalize on what you said there, Tina, and it's a truly and it's an insane process, right? Like I'm not really that much of like a technical guy, but like when I see things like that, I mean, Artur, you and Adam, you guys literally made Barcelona in Unreal Engine within just like 40 minutes of the stream, which is crazy to me, you know.
But there is very important caveat to this. Uh, In this process, at some point, there was a lot of work that we just skipped over. A lot of work of level design on cleaning data, and it can be overstated how much work they did. And additionally,
True.
adding all those custom elements, every single of those box or those meshes had to be hand placed to give this generator a chance to create anything.
Right.
That's because like I wanted to ask a question sort of regarding like everything that's surrounding the roads, and just like you said, like we skipped over a lot of the things like, you know, making the buildings and like around the roads, right? Because we're not just making roads for our game, we're making the entire city, and that's including like the pylons and the trash cans and like the parked cars and everything, right? So I wanted to ask you, just can you give us like a scope of like how like the buildings, like how do we get the buildings like into the game as well? Is that also part of the OpenStreetMap data as well, or is that something that we have to like adjust and model by hand? Do we have some kind of like a template for that, or do we have to do that just from like images and stuff?
Okay, this is actually also quite important and interesting part of our workflow. We're starting with OpenStreet data. That is imported to Houdini and then used to generate points that will attaching instances of parts of the buildings, like different kinds of windows, different kinds of doors, and it's based on the node that is a part of the Labs plugin to Houdini. We are using this in conjunction with Houdini Engine. This is something that was designed and put together by my colleague Tomek Pawłowicz. And we are using PDG system and Houdini Engine for this. All the elements, well, maybe I can share the screen once more because it will be easier to show it that way. Okay, fantastic. Put our buildings here, and all those buildings are modular in nature. And we have a system that allows us to get shape of a building and information about its height, and later level art team can decide of what kind of facade type we will use for this building, and the building is generated. But later it can be customly changed. Some parts can be moved or remodeled to match what we see in reality as close as possible. And while we're using the existing as a base for this generation, we're using existing Houdini solution, and all those facade elements are custom made for this project. and this covers, I would say, 80 to 90% of buildings, because on any given district there will be a couple of hundreds of buildings. This is only one district of many we have in a game. But there is a few buildings that are simply too complicated or unusual enough that cannot be replicated with this system, like for example those towers or famous fish monument, and those are based on reference data and photographs hand crafted and modeled by our 3D team, and later placed among the generated buildings. So most of buildings are generated, but the most iconic one and most important ones are handcrafted.
Wow.
That is insane. Insane. That's all I got to say.
A lot of work for sure.
Yeah. I have one more question before we can maybe segue into Q&A. Tina, what do you think? Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So I don't know who is the best person that will answer this question. So either Artur or Adam. So I'm sure you guys know, right, that there is a big boom on AI right now, and a major part of our game is the AI vehicles that are driving around and around the city, and they're stopping at intersections and they're making left and right turns and all this kinds of stuff. Do you think that in the future, like during the development of our game, we'll be using more AI to like make the game? Or I don't know, like because we're obviously using an AI system for the NPC model cars, right? And what I'm trying to ask is, like, if we're going to be using it more in the future to, for example, generate cities or buildings or stuff like that. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we'll be using AI to generate content. Even now, we can use GTP chat to just generate the code, and you need to check this code because this AI likes to lie sometimes, but it's pretty decent actually. Yeah.
Have you used ChatGPT in your workflow, Adam?
Uh, Not. I've used. I've tested the other solution like GitHub Copilot. It's. I think it's not that good. I've used ChatGPT, for example, to generate some articles or something like that. Of course, they needed to be processed later, like documentation, stuff like this, and it has a huge potential.
That's crazy. That's insane. Well, thank
Yeah,
you for the answer.
those are amazing tools, and we'll be using them in near future for sure, for both texture generation or as a support for level art. Those tools already exist, and it's developing in such a rapid pace that it's hard to say if we'll be generating meshes or maybe entire city structures in some time from now. But as for tool for particular aspects of our work, for sure, this will be more and more will be more important as a supporting tool.
Do you think it'll take your job over?
It's actually a hard question.
Yeah. It does generate Vex code for Houdini, so
Awesome.
Cool.
I feel like
Yeah,
that's
Thanks,
always
guys.
I think we won't answer this question. Yeah.
for your own job security. It is
Right.
imperative you don't answer. Yeah.
Don't give our CEO any ideas, because
Awesome.
Oh, we can replace him
Well,
with AI.
Oh, AI CEO Marcin, are you listening? If you're, I know you're listening, but look, it's a double-edged sword. Okay.
Is this a threat?
Hey.
Awesome. Well, we do have quite a few questions that have come in from chat. They are blown away, first and foremost, by just how incredible the project looks so far. I mean, the processes, of course, are also incredible. The ways that you've developed this formula, basically, of actually generating an entire established city. But just for starters, they think it looks amazing, which I completely agree with. It looks incredible. It doesn't look like, I feel like when people think of simulations, quote unquote, they don't typically think of like the highest fidelity graphics, but this looks like a game. This looks like the city. This is something that is beautiful, and you could tour around and get a really wonderful sense of the city itself. So, was that a major focus point, was making sure that this looked really good as well, besides just functioned appropriately?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the major unique selling points of this project. The recreation of the city as closely as possible, and that includes uh, visuals. From the start, we know that we need to bring really high visual quality to this project.
Mm. Well, you did it successfully. I must say, it really does look
It's great to
amazing.
hear.
I do have, you may have potentially answered this question, and if you did, I apologize. But this is my own question. This is me being selfish for a second before we hop into the plethora of questions from chat. So since it is a one for one of Barcelona, does that also go for the foliage as well? Like, did you have to take in account of where all the trees and shrubs and stuff like that are, or was there a little bit more creative license with placement of that?
Well, this is a matter of diminishing returns. Uh, if there is some big important seeing from distance tree of particular shape, our level art team is trying to recreate this as close as possible. But
Mm.
if there is just a park with trees, there is really no point to trying to recreating this too close, because
Yeah.
no one will notice.
Sure. If there is a single leaf out of place, I will let you
No,
know.
no, we can't have this. QA will let us know.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, well, thank you for getting my selfish question aside. So while we go into the Q&A segment here, I'm just going to toss the questions out in general, and whoever wants to take it, feel free. It'll kind of just be a little free for all, unless there's one that is specifically sent towards one in particular. But in general, whoever wants it can take it. So,
Sounds good.
for the starter one, I think it might actually be fun if we get an answer from all of you on this. But DJ Spyroof, great name by the way, is wondering, what are, in your opinion, the most fun things to work on in this project so far?
No, there's so
I guess
many.
Okay.
who's gonna go first?
Uh,
All right, I'll go first, just from like the community perspective. So I mean, I've been a part of this project for about a year now, and it's awesome to see just like the community grow and the general interest in the game grow. I mean, we have like literal taxi drivers that have driven taxis in Barcelona, that have come across our game, and they're just like so hyped. And like this also goes to show with like our first title, which is about trains. And we have and for that game we also had literal train drivers coming into our Discord channel and talking about like, yeah, I'm an actual train driver in real life. This is what I do. I'm an engineer. And it looks amazing, right? So just to like see like people's reactions when they're like, and like also like I mentioned earlier that we went to Gamescom, and I said that like when people saw the trailer for the game, they were just completely blown away by the fact that they actually went to the place that we're making into a game, and they've been there physically, right? So it's just sort of seeing like that emotional like attachment that people have to the game before they even like played it. It's actually pretty remarkable, to be honest, and it gives us like that motivation to make an amazing game that people will play for a long time. So from like the community standpoint, our community is great. It's growing, and we can't wait to see where it goes for the rest of the year. So thank you guys for everyone that is watching from the community, and to all newcomers that are discovering our game for the first time. We hope you guys will stick around, see what's next.
Absolutely.
Okay, so maybe I will
So
answer next.
okay. No, go ahead.
I was slightly faster. Okay, for me, and this actually happened a couple of times in this project, because I've got in our company other responsibilities, and not only working on Taxi Life. So after working on the generator, setting up lights, post process, I tend to leave projects for a bit, a couple of days, sometimes weeks. And basically every single time when I go back to it, I'm kind of amazed what our team managed to add in this process, because this the city, you've seen just one level, and it's ever growing and evolving. And I'm generating a road system for a couple new levels, and later I'm coming back and I see how it's populated by all the assets, how custom buildings are looking there, and it's still this feeling of amazement is really probably the best thing I'm getting from this work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think it's finally my turn. So I don't know if fellow programmers share the sentiment, but for me, this part that I was showing is the most interesting for me. That's because I like this part of content generation from map. I really like the idea and how this is powerful, how much data we can just obtain for free from OpenStreetMap and generate something interesting from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine, and I'm sure even then there's probably other things beyond just what you mentioned that have been, because it's a huge project, and I'm sure ups and downs through the whole process. Which, on a similar note, I am also curious if you have any particular, maybe not hardships, but are there any bugs that may have come up that you found, of course, probably still a little frustrating? I know we briefly talked about one where cars would fly straight into the air every once in a while. Do you have any favorite bugs that may have come up so far through the building process?
I sort of spend a lot of time in the current build in the game on Steam, because I'm usually like capturing content for social media, whether it's like gameplay or showing off a feature that we made, or just like a general a thing, right? And I, like you said, probably one of my favorite ones. And it's frustrating in the sense that, because when I'm trying to record something and there's a car that just comes from outer space and just crash lands into Barcelona for some reason, and then I have to re-record again, or I have to like go into Premiere and like cut it out some way or crop it so you can't see it, just like this random car flying out of nowhere. I think that's probably the most frustrating part. But I mean, I'm sure Adam and Arthur here have seen some pretty significant bugs and challenges during the production of the game as well. So
I think it's your turn, Adam.
Oh, Adam, it's your turn.
Oh, I thought that the queue goes like before. But okay, I can take it. So definitely our most problems now are caused by the traffic AI. This is something that we definitely need to focus on before the game is released. Like you may think that we have this system for so long, so it should be that the AI should behave perfectly, but it's not so simple because for example, previously when we cooperated with Aptiv, it was mainly used on highways. Now we have urban area, so a lot of different edge cases. We also used like kinematic models, so you can just order the car to just set deceleration to X, and you will stop exactly after Y meters. And you can do this in a game where where all cars are dynamic. You don't have such precision. We need to implement some controllers like PID or similar, and we still don't get this precision. So either cars are moving too slow or bump into each other. So yeah, definitely there is a lot of work to be done in this area, and we are dedicated to fix all those problems before the release.
Yeah. Are you telling me AI isn't perfect?
No, they can't be.
Yeah, actually,
Maybe we'll
my
just
favorite
feed.
bug is
Yeah, again, maybe we just feed the chat GPT orders to our AI cars, and this will fix the problems.
Yeah, yeah.
possibly. Okay, my favorite is actually also connected with traffic AI. It was quite a long time ago, and since then it was patched and fixed completely. But I was recording in one of the earlier builds the traffic for demo we've seen, for intro we've seen, with time lapse of many cars going through intersection. And I have prepared everything. I've tested it many times. It worked flawlessly, and I needed 10-minute loop. So I was preparing if everything will work during this 10-minute loop. Tested again. It worked perfectly. And then when I started recording, the first car stopped in the stopped in the center of first intersection and blocked entire movement completely.
Oh no.
Yeah, in exactly the wrong moment. But as you saw, at the next try, everything went well.
Yeah. Without fail. Every time.
This happens sometimes in life. Yeah.
Yeah, it just broke.
I actually just wanted to, because I just remembered one more bug that I encountered that was very frustrating. Because in taxi life, we're going to have pedestrians that are crossing the street, right? And you're going to have to wait for them to cross the street. So, very simple concept, very difficult to execute. And when we first added the pedestrians into the game and they started to cross the street, and they were supposed to listen to the signs, right? Like stop and then walk. But even though it said stop, they still crossed the street. So you could see AI vehicles just like running over pedestrians during through the crosswalk as they're like trying to walk across. Obviously there's no violence or there's nothing like that in taxi life, right? But it was just like collision. The car just went right through and I was like, oh wow, well, we don't want that in the game. And I remember talking with one of the programmers, and they said that it was very difficult to fix that actually, so that they were actually following the rules of the road, and the cars were not running over pedestrians. So that was pretty interesting fact right there.
Oh no. You mean you're not going to add in ragdoll effects and flying all over the
Yeah,
place?
yeah, I don't think so at this point.
Not in the
It's
cards? All right.
tempting.
I mean, maybe chat wants it. I don't know.
I don't know.
it'll be it'll be funny.
With question like this, well, there's only one possible answer.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I vote for it, but that's besides the point, you know. I like that all of your answers had something to do with traffic AI, though. I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah, this is a huge part of it. Is one of the core pillars of this project.
Mm-hmm.
And probably technically, not probably, and technically most complicated and most challenging.
Absolutely, yeah. On a similar vein here, making sure I'm finding the right one. Speaking of AI, since we're on it, may as well continue the theme here. Cregan is wondering, you mentioned that you were only simulating vehicles around the player due to performance. How many AI cars have you found to be a reasonable number to simulate, or is it a varying amount?
Yeah, it will be hard for me to answer because I don't remember. We were doing some tests, but it was a long time ago, and it depends on a lot of factors. For example, we can simulate, like for example, thousands of cars or something like that in kinematic mode, so without simulating full physics. But of course, it's significantly less with dynamic cars. Actually, we are doing some LD, so the closest cars are fully simulated. The cars, if the car is far enough, it's switching to this kinematic mode, simplified one. But I can't really remember the exact numbers that we've tested.
That's fair. You also kind of indirectly answered their follow-up question, which was, are the AI cars using full physics sim or a simplified movement model?
Yeah, so this is the answer. Both.
A little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Helios Flame is wondering, the road was under construction or changed, and in X Street, the traffic changed completely since the time you put the data in. When do you put the last date of changes, or can the game auto update from the data in open maps?
Well, because there is, as you could see, there is a lot of work of LD involved to clean all this roads. It's not automatic process. So we imported those roads once. It was, I don't know what was the exact date, and they will stay like this. Yeah.
I like that. It's a little time capsule of Barcelona.
True.
However, there will be random events in the game that'll sort of simulate road construction, and it'll be up to the player to sort of maneuver around there because there will be traffic jams, right?
Right.
However, it's sort of like a game. It's sort of like a gamified traffic jam. So you won't be waiting 45 minutes in traffic after you just waited 45 minutes in traffic in real life. Like at the end of the day,
we are dedicated to recreate real life experience.
Yes,
you know,
it has to be exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Like people that get home from their 9 to 5. Yeah. But no, I mean, like the most you'll probably wait in traffic is maybe like 30 seconds, maybe a minute max. I think same goes. I think probably even less than that. But same thing for red lights and stuff like that. So
I don't know. That sounds exactly like why I play games, is to sit in traffic for a half hour.
Yeah.
That is my idea of a good time.
Relaxing.
Turn up the radio, sit back,
Oh, yeah.
maybe put it in park for a little bit, depending, you know.
Maybe we should have a mode with full realistic traffic jams.
Oh, sounds good.
This is an idea.
That is an idea. That is an idea for sure.
Spark Noise is wondering, do you or can you use traffic information to feed the system having more or less cars on the road?
Okay, if I understand correctly, it's about the real time traffic data.
Mm.
So no, we don't use it, but what we are aiming to use is to simulate different traffic at the different time of the day. So, for example, in the morning, the people are going from their home to some urban areas. In the evening, the opposite way, if there's a big event in the middle of a town, there will be more traffic around here. So we are trying to do something like this, but we don't use real-time traffic data.
Makes sense. Probably easier to control that way, right?
Yeah. Easier to
Yeah, I can just imagine
easier to
people like,
gamify.
I was just in this traffic jam. Now I'm in it virtually.
That's great.
Oh god.
I
It's
was
so
dreaming about
good.
it.
This is gameplay right here.
Well, I mean, it's similar to how you were mentioning that you have actual taxi drivers who mention that they're really excited to play the game. I'm like, they're really dedicated to being a taxi
Oh
driver.
yeah.
I don't know if it was my job if I could go home and play a taxi sim game, but
It's a never-ending job, even in video games.
next question is also from DJ Spyroof. They were wondering if you needed any kind of license or rights to remake some of the buildings in the game.
Well, then maybe I will answer this. This was actually one of the few reasons that we chose Barcelona, because Spain has very liberal law about showing facades of the buildings that are not used as a part of the gameplay and just as a visual part. This is for this reason there were a couple of cities we were thinking about, but simply couldn't because of this exact reason. But there are things that we cannot replicate without permissions. Those are things like uh, some night illumination of buildings, because this is protected by law and belongs to artists who designed this, to architects who designed this. And there are a couple of caveats we have to be worried about. But in general, we don't need to ask for permissions just to show general shape and outlines of the buildings.
That's interesting. I never thought about particular lighting settings being, I guess, copywrote. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a very
Actually,
important subject, and we've spent quite a lot of time researching the topic.
Yeah.
a little fun fact that I wanted to add on to that was we actually have some, because Barcelona has a lot of street art, and we
Mm.
actually were able to implement some of that street art into the game. And we actually, because we have a Hispanic person in the team that had some contacts, and he was able to get permission to use it. So in certain parts of the game, you'll be able to see actual street art in the game that you can see in real life. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
that extra little bit of immersion, getting in the smaller details of the city like that included. That's really cool. Let's see. Not the tech guy is wondering, during this process, what was the biggest hurdle to overcome? And what is a small feature or detail that really stands out to you or you were most happy with?
Arthur?
Okay, this is probably, yeah. Okay, I will start. It will be, yeah. In open questions, it will be easier to direct who should answer this first.
Mm.
Um, for me, I wouldn't say there's any particular part of I'm especially proud. Everything looks very interesting and looks nice and going let's say, as planned. For things that were probably the most complicated at some point, seemed like those could be a deal breaker in this work. Cleaning this raw data, because this was and still is a lot of tedious manual work, and I'm very happy it is progressing as it does, but it's still taking a lot of work and dedication from our level design team to do this. Oh, there is one thing that I'm super happy and kind of surprised me a bit, because from the setup I showed you in Houdini, one of the few problems we have with this is lack of visual feedback. Because this process takes time, it's created outside of Unreal, so level artists and level designers are putting all those elements, those boxes, those meshes that will later be transformed into parts of the street, but I can't see it, the final effect, before I will regenerate the mesh. And at the beginning, I was wondering if this will work, but they understand the tools to such extent that right now, basically, first iteration of regeneration looks almost perfect. So this is something that I'm very happy about.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, so I agree about this cleaning up the raw data being the biggest hurdle in this whole process. Yeah, so I have nothing to add to this.
I'm just gonna plus
The
one
cleaning
everything
data.
that you said, Artur.
Yeah.
Just gonna plus one it.
There's got to be somebody who enjoyed cleaning data, right? Anyone? Can you think
No,
anyone on the team anywhere?
no,
No.
no. It's not nice things to do. It's necessary, but it's no.
Other things you would prefer to be doing with your time.
Yeah, like traffic jams and something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, priorities here. Max Archie is wondering, is there a consistent texture density for all 3D models in the game, or does it vary?
Oh, actually, we're very sparsely use custom textures for buildings, because there is so a large variety of different facade types and different types of buildings, that we decided to go with a library of uh, textures and materials. And for most of our assets, we are using word-aligned textures. And those can be tiled in on material to material basis, as we need them to be. So most of our models don't use traditional texturing with normal maps, and instead we're using layered materials with just a library of different surfaces. And in this workflow, textile density is keeping consistent textile density is not necessary and really not viable.
Yeah, understandable at the scale that the project is at.
Yeah, with individual texture for everything, we would burn through GPU memory really quickly.
Exploding computers across the world. Let's see. Next question is from Cybershell Rev. They're curious about your method of optimizing, specifically for your pedestrians. Do you use vertex animations or skeletal meshes?
We, for standard walk cycle and idle animations, we use vertex animation textures, and that allows us to create as many pedestrians as we need. But for our main characters, people who will be who are part of our job, our missions, we are using skeletal meshes. But those are very few compared to the amount of pedestrians that we have. So we are using both systems, but most of our characters in the game are vertex animated.
Yeah, awesome. Uh, Sky is also wondering, are there potholes? Important question.
Are there? No, we have pots that are added to the trees, but we're not cutting potholes in the pavement.
Okay, so we have relatively pristine roadwork.
I mean, I think the closest thing that we're gonna have to a pothole, but the player won't be able to drive over it, is like the road construction that the player will encounter during their travels in the city, which they'll either have to avoid or just sit through the pain of sitting in traffic. So
Yes.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our questions. Most of the other ones have been answered through the demos or through the other answers that you all gave. So, before we wrap up, is there any last statements, any last things you want to make sure people know?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I just wanted to thank, on behalf of Simteract, thank you, Tina, thank the behind the scenes workers and Unreal for having us on the stream. It's been a real pleasure. And when it comes to Taxi Life, we're looking to release the game later this year, most likely late Q4. We'll see. But probably this year, for sure. It's been in production for quite some time now, so the time is near. And for all of you watching, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check us out. Follow us on socials, join our Discord channel. I regularly update the community on what we're doing. I do a lot of developer blogs and more behind the scenes look on how we do the things that we do. So, with the help of Artur and Adam here, we're putting out content about the game. So, yeah, feel free to check us out at Simteract everywhere. And yeah, Artur, Adam, maybe anything from you guys?
Yeah, just it was a really pleasure, and thank you for having us. It was great experience.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
nothing to add. I completely agree. It was a pleasure. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure having all of you on as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to show us all of this. I mean, the process that you walked through today, I know it's taken a lot of time for you to even build it in the first place. So, you setting it up in a way that you can show it basically from start to end for us is very appreciated. And I also just appreciate your time. I know you all are very busy doing developing and many of those things. So, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today and show us all the really cool facets of the project that you're working on. All
Likewise,
right.
thank you very
Well,
much, team.
Thanks.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
With that, everyone, thank you also so much for coming to watch the show today. It wouldn't be what it is without you and your participation and you asking questions. So thank you all so much for coming as well. We post all of our streams in video format that can be watched on demand on both our Twitch and YouTube channel. So if you missed any part of the stream today, no worries. You can catch up on it whenever you have the chance. Also, don't forget to keep up with us at Unreal Engine on all social media, as well as come say hi in our forums where you can get all of the latest news and find all of the links associated with today's stream, including where you can go wishlist the wonderful Taxi Life project that we talked about. So, once again, thank you all so much for coming today. And for everyone watching, I will see all of you next week. We have a pretty big show, so make sure you make it. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.